All right. So today we're going to be tackling something that I think we've all probably struggled with at some point,
Yeah.
and that's finding the motivation to study.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone has dealt with that.
You know, when your brain is just like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it just like rejects the idea of opening a book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm really excited to dig into these excerpts from 5 proven ways to find motivation to study fast.
Okay.
And it's from Think High X.
All right.
And what I really like about this is that it has sort of a blend of like
Yeah.
practical advice, but then also like personal anecdotes from the author. And we'll even get into
Nice.
like the future of how studying and motivation might change.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it starts off with something that I think is kind of a relief.
Yeah.
And that's just acknowledging that like pretty much everyone struggles with this.
Yeah.
Like it's not just you,
For sure.
it's everyone you know.
Right.
It actually points out that our brains like prefer easy and instantly gratifying activities.
Yes, exactly. That's so true.
So it's like no wonder that it's so much more appealing to scroll through social media
Right.
than it is to like decipher some complex textbook.
Yeah. Or really anything that requires a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Like our brain is just, give me the easy stuff.
Yeah, and so I thought it was really fascinating that it kind of starts out by like validating that experience.
Oh, totally.
Instead of just like jumping right into the advice, it's like,
Yeah.
This is a normal human challenge.
For sure. It's kind of reassuring in a way. You know, it makes
Yeah.
you feel like, oh, okay, it's not just me being lazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a real thing that people struggle with.
Exactly. And that can be really empowering
Absolutely.
because then it like shifts the focus from you feeling inadequate to understanding
Just
like
why?
that's so
Just
hard.
put a mechanism on it.
Why am I like this?
Why am I like this?
Yeah.
So it goes on to list some really specific reasons for why studying can feel like such an uphill battle.
Okay, I'm curious. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to hear if any of these resonate with you too.
Yeah, for sure.
So first up is this thing that we already touched on,
Okay.
which is that our brains just love instant gratification,
Oh yeah,
right?
huge problem for me.
And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, we're wired for this world of like quick rewards and dopamine hits.
Exactly. We want it now.
But studying is like the opposite of that.
Totally. It's delayed gratification.
Yeah, it's like you put in all this effort today, but the payoff might not be for weeks or even months.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard to see the benefits sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, you're putting in all this work and you're like,
Yeah.
when is this going to pay off?
But am I going to see the results?
Yeah, and that can be really demotivating.
Yeah, and this is something that I was thinking about the other day.
Yeah.
Like, it's like our brains are still stuck in like hunter-gatherer mode.
I know, that's a good point. Like,
Right.
you're programmed for immediate rewards.
Like looking for the quickest way to get a meal.
Right.
Yeah.
Avoid danger.
Or avoid danger.
Yeah. Get those essential needs met.
Exactly. And so it's like now we're trying to chase good grades
Oh!
or master complex concepts.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a totally different game.
And our brains are like,
yeah.
I don't know what you're doing.
This doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I want the reward now.
Yeah, so I think that's why it's so helpful to understand this like evolutionary context.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, so it's not that I'm lazy or lack willpower.
Right.
It's that like my brain is literally like
It's not your fault.
playing by different rules.
Right. It's just how we're wired.
Yeah.
But the good news is we can kind of learn to work with that wiring.
Exactly.
You know, that you figure out strategies to overcome those instincts.
Okay, so that's the first reason.
Okay.
The second reason that it gives
Yeah.
is probably no surprise.
Okay.
It's distractions.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right, like
Everywhere.
phones, social media,
Yeah.
streaming services.
Constant bombardment.
Yeah, it's a constant battle for our attention.
It really is. It's like you can't escape it.
Yeah, and it's funny because the article talks about this thing called attention residue.
Oh, yeah. I've heard of that.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, it's like when you switch between tasks, your brain doesn't fully let go of the first one.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, so even if you've like closed Instagram
Yeah.
and opened your textbook,
Right.
part of you is still like back on those memes
Oh, that makes so much sense.
or whatever you were looking at.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not fully focused on your studying.
It's like trying to study with like a million tiny voices
Exactly. Yeah. A million tabs open in your brain.
in your head.
Yeah. And they're all competing for your attention.
That's a really good way to put it.
So it's no wonder we have trouble concentrating.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of speaks to why
Yeah.
it can be so important to have like a distraction-free study environment.
Totally. It's not just about willpower. It's about actually creating the right conditions for your brain to focus.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he's got those two reasons.
All right, so what's the third one?
The third one I think is really interesting.
Okay.
And it's that sometimes we just feel tired.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like after a long day of classes or work
Totally.
or even just life.
Life in general.
Yeah, it can
Yeah.
be so hard to muster the energy to focus.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
You know, you're just drained, and the last thing you want to do is study.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this actually connects to
Okay.
like the importance of self-care
Absolutely.
and rest.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah,
You need to take care of yourself first.
exactly. Because if you try to force yourself to study when you're exhausted,
Yeah.
it's like counterproductive.
It is. You're not going to retain anything.
Yeah, you're not going to learn anything.
And you'll just end up more frustrated.
Yeah, so it seems like the first step is to like
Yeah.
be kind to ourselves and recognize that these challenges are real.
Absolutely. Have some self-compassion.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to struggle with this stuff.
Exactly.
It's not a sign of weakness.
And it seems like the article is really good at that.
Yeah.
Like it's really good at setting up this foundation of like,
Yeah. It's like meeting you where you're at,
yeah,
you know, acknowledging the challenges before jumping into the solutions.
exactly. And so now
Okay.
here's where it takes a really interesting turn.
Okay.
It goes from these like broader challenges
Yeah.
to a personal story from the author
Oh, cool. I like that.
about their own struggle with study motivation.
Oh, I always find those stories so helpful.
Yeah.
You know, it makes the advice feel more real.
Yeah. And it's surprisingly relatable,
Okay.
even though like they're now like an expert on this topic.
Yeah. So what was their experience like?
So they talk about feeling that familiar resistance to studying,
Right.
especially after a long day at school.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
And they said it wasn't that they weren't capable.
Right?
They just couldn't seem to find the motivation to actually put in the effort.
Yeah, it's that classic thing where you know what you should do,
Yeah.
but you just can't bring yourself to do it.
Yeah.
Like the motivation is just gone.
Totally. And the turning point for the author came
Okay.
when they got some disappointing exam results.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't a lack of ability.
Yeah.
It was just that lack of dedicated effort.
So it was a wake-up call.
It was a wake-up call. Like,
Yeah.
I've been coasting on autopilot
Right.
and I need to like
Take control.
take the wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
So what did they do?
Yeah, I'm curious, what was their strategy?
So their initial strategy was really simple.
Okay.
They committed to just 10 minutes of studying.
10 minutes.
That's it.
Wow, that's so simple.
Yeah.
But I guess it makes sense.
I know it seems so simple, right?
Yeah.
But it's about starting small.
Right. You're tricking your brain into taking action.
Yeah.
Like making it seem less daunting.
Exactly. And I think that's where a listener might start to feel
Yeah.
a little glimmer of hope.
Okay.
Because it's not about becoming like this
Yeah.
superhuman study machine.
Right.
It's about making those like small, consistent efforts
Yeah. Little by little.
that build over time.
Exactly. And those small steps can eventually lead to big results.
And before we dive into like the 5 specific tips, I want to share another story
All right.
that I think is really inspiring.
Okay.
And it really highlights the power of having a clear goal.
Okay.
And this is the story of Dr. A.P.J. Abdul Kalam.
Oh, wow. I've heard of him.
Yeah.
The Missile Man of India.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
He's incredible. And he came from
Yeah.
incredibly humble beginnings.
And his story is amazing.
Like, grew up in a poor family, sold newspapers as a child
Wow.
to help support them.
That's incredible.
But he had this burning desire to learn
Yeah.
and a dream of becoming a scientist.
It's amazing how a powerful dream can fuel you like that. Totally. And for Dr. Kalam, education was like
Yeah.
the key to unlocking that dream.
Absolutely.
He believed that through learning,
Yeah.
he could not only like improve his own life,
Right.
but also contribute to like the advancement of his country.
That's a powerful motivator.
Yeah. And so that drove him to excel in his studies,
Wow.
even when it meant sacrificing
Yeah.
sleep and leisure time.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he was intrinsically motivated.
Yes.
You know, that drive that comes from within,
Right.
like a passion or a sense of purpose.
Exactly. And so I think this brings us back to you, the listener.
Okay.
What is it that you're passionate about?
Yeah.
What's that big dream that could fuel
What's your why?
your study motivation?
Yeah.
Even when it feels tough.
Exactly, because when you have a strong why,
Yeah.
it makes those sacrifices feel less like sacrifices
Yeah.
and more like investments.
Exactly, yeah.
You're investing in something you care about.
Totally.
So it's worth it.
And so we've kind of explored the challenges.
Yes.
We've found some inspiration.
Yes.
And now,
Right.
are you ready to get into the 5 ways
I am.
to make this happen?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
I'm ready to be motivated. Let's hear those tips. Okay, so those were some pretty big challenges.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to hear these 5 ways that the article talks about.
Yeah, to like make it actually happen.
Yeah, to boost our study drive.
Yeah. And I think what's great about these tips
Okay.
is that they're not just pulled out of thin air.
Right.
They're grounded in like a solid understanding of how our brains work.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've been talking about this whole time, right?
Yeah.
Like understanding the underlying mechanisms behind our behavior.
Okay, so tip number 1 is to set a clear goal.
Okay, goals are important for everything.
And this might seem super obvious,
Yeah.
but it's amazing how many people try to study without a specific target in mind.
Right. They're just kind of like, I'm going to study.
Yeah.
But they don't really know what they're aiming for.
They're just kind of like floating in this
Yeah, like wandering around aimlessly.
sea of information.
Right, no direction.
No compass to guide them.
Exactly. It's like setting out on a road trip without a destination.
Yeah.
You might end up somewhere, but it's probably not where you want it to go.
Right. And I've definitely been guilty of this.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Like I've written down like vague goals before.
Yeah, like study more.
Yeah. Be better at math.
Right, but those are so general.
Yeah. It's like, what does that even mean?
Exactly. Yeah, you need something more specific.
So how can we make our study goals like truly motivating?
Well, I think the key is to make them SMART.
Okay.
Have you heard of that acronym?
I think so. Refresh my memory.
Yeah, so it stands for specific,
Okay.
measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Oh, okay. I remember now.
Yeah, so instead of just saying, I want to get better at math,
Right.
you could say, I'm going to master the next chapter on algebra by the end of the week.
Oh, that's so much better.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll know I've achieved that when I can correctly answer 80% of the practice problems.
I love that it's so concrete.
Exactly. You have a clear target and a way to measure your progress.
Yeah. And that can be so motivating.
It is, because you can track your progress
Uh-huh.
and celebrate your achievements along the way.
Yeah, you're not just like,
Right. It's not just this vague idea.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm actually making progress toward this goal.
okay, so that was a really good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so tip number 2 is one we've already talked about,
Yeah.
but it's worth emphasizing
Okay.
because it's so powerful,
Okay.
especially when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Okay.
Start small.
Start small.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all about the psychology of momentum.
Okay.
Instead of focusing on like the enormity of the task,
Right.
let's say studying for a huge exam,
Yeah.
you trick your brain into taking action by setting like a tiny, almost ridiculously easy goal.
Okay.
Like, I'll just open my textbook and read 1 page.
I like that.
Right. It seems too simple to be effective.
Yeah. But it really works.
But it does.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I've found that once you take that first step,
Uh-huh.
the resistance just starts to like
Melt away.
melt away.
Yeah, you break through that initial inertia
Yeah.
and you're in motion.
You're like, well,
What?
I'm already here.
Yeah.
Might as well just like
Keep going.
read another page
Exactly. Yeah. One thing leads to another.
or do a couple practice problems.
Right. And it's all about those small wins.
Yeah.
Each tiny achievement builds your confidence
Yeah.
and motivates you to keep going.
Yeah. I like to think of it like those exercise apps
Yeah.
that are like,
Just do 5 minutes.
just do 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
And then you're like, okay, I can do 5 more.
okay, well, I'm already here.
Right. Exactly.
Might as well just finish the workout.
Yeah, and before you know it, you've done a full workout.
Yeah.
So it's the same principle with studying.
Yes.
Start small, build momentum.
Okay.
And those small wins will eventually lead to big results.
Okay. Are you ready for tip number 3?
Bring it on.
Okay. This one builds on the idea of starting small,
Okay.
but it takes it a step further.
All right. I'm intrigued.
It's called break your study into manageable parts.
Okay. So chunking it down.
Yeah, like turning what can feel like a marathon
Yeah.
into a series of sprints.
I love that analogy.
Right.
Yeah, because it's so true.
Yeah.
When you're facing like this mountain of material,
Yeah.
it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But if you break that mountain down
Right.
into smaller hills,
More manageable.
yeah, it feels much more achievable.
Exactly. And it also aligns with how our brains learn best.
Right. We need those breaks to process information
Yeah.
and to consolidate what we've learned.
Like, have you ever heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Oh, yeah, I love the Pomodoro technique.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
It's like where you work in focus intervals.
Usually like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Followed by a short break. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a game changer.
It's amazing. And
Yeah.
it kind of makes it a little bit fun, too.
Yeah, it adds a little bit of gamification. Like,
Yeah.
can I beat the timer?
Yeah.
Can I finish this task before the alarm goes off?
Yeah. And those short breaks are so crucial
Yes.
for just letting your brain, like, rest
Absolutely, you got to recharge.
and consolidate information.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just burn out.
Okay, so are you ready for tip number 4?
Hit me with it.
Okay, this one is all about making studying a little bit more enjoyable.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Reward yourself.
Oh, yes. Rewards are essential.
I'm a huge believer in this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
It makes the whole process so much more bearable.
Yeah. And it can be as simple as, like,
Yeah,
allowing yourself to check social media for a few minutes.
totally.
Or listen to a favorite song.
Yes.
After you complete a chapter.
Or having a little treat.
Or like brewing a cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. Little things to look forward to.
Yeah, it's about creating these little rituals.
Yes, rituals are key. That makes studying feel less like a chore.
Right, and more like something you actually enjoy.
Yeah, or at least don't dread.
Yeah, exactly.
And then for like bigger milestones,
Okay.
like finishing a major assignment or acing a test,
Yeah.
I'll like treat myself to something more substantial,
Like what?
like dinner out with friends
Oh, nice.
or a new book,
Ah, I love that.
something that I've been wanting.
Yeah, so you're associating your hard work
Yeah,
with something positive, so it
Yeah.
makes you more likely to want to keep studying
totally.
because you know there's a reward waiting for you.
Okay, so are you ready for tip number 5?
I am. Let's hear it.
This one is study with friends.
Oh, study groups.
Yeah.
Classic.
Now, I know this doesn't work for everyone.
Right, some people need that solitude.
Yeah, some people thrive in like solitary environments.
Totally.
But for those who enjoy like
Yeah.
collaboration and social interaction,
Yeah.
it can be a game changer.
It can be really motivating.
Yeah, it's about transforming what can feel like
Yeah.
this isolating endeavor
You're together.
into a shared experience.
Right, it becomes more fun,
Yeah,
less daunting.
you can bounce ideas off of each other,
Yes, clarify confusing concepts.
hold each other accountable.
Yeah. Keep each other on track.
Yeah, and I remember like forming study groups in college.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It made such a difference.
It was so helpful.
Yeah, we would quiz each other, explain concepts.
Yeah.
We even made like silly mnemonics
Oh, yeah, those are the best.
to help us remember stuff.
Yeah, it makes it more engaging.
Yeah, it was fun.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so before we move on
Okay.
to part 3
Yeah,
and get into those expert level insights,
I'm excited for those.
I'm curious to hear your take on the future trends
Okay, yeah.
that the article talks about.
Let's talk about the future.
So it specifically highlights like
Yeah.
the rise of online courses and apps.
Oh, yeah, that's huge right now.
Yep.
Everyone's taking online courses.
Which I think is really interesting because
yeah.
it offers like personalized learning experiences.
Right, you can learn at your own pace.
Yeah.
In your own time.
And it has those like gamified elements.
Yes, the points, the badges.
And progress tracking.
Yeah, all that stuff. That makes it more fun.
Which I think is so smart.
Yeah, it taps into our psychology.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier.
It's like understanding what motivates people.
It does.
And then also the article talks about virtual study groups.
Oh, yeah, those are becoming really popular,
Yeah.
especially with people all over the world.
Yeah, it allows you to connect with learners.
Yeah.
Globally.
It breaks down those geographical barriers.
Yeah.
And you can learn from people with different perspectives.
Which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So I'm curious, what are your overall impressions
yeah.
of these trends? Like, how do you think they'll shape the future of education?
Well, I'm really optimistic about it.
Right.
I think it's a really exciting time to be a learner.
Yeah.
You know, because we have access to so many resources now. Yeah.
And we can learn from anyone, anywhere.
Yeah, technology is awesome.
It is. It's really empowering.
Okay. So, as we transition to part 3,
Okay.
I'm excited to delve deeper into those
Yeah.
expert level insights.
Yes. Let's get to the pro tips.
We've covered the basics.
Yeah.
We've explored personalization.
Uh-huh.
We've glimpsed the future.
Right.
Now it's time to level up.
I'm ready to level up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're back for the final part of our deep dive.
I'm ready for those pro tips.
And me too. We've talked a lot about study motivation.
We have. We've covered a lot of ground.
From like why it's so hard
Right. All those challenges.
to practical tips and personal stories.
Yeah. And even a glimpse into the future.
Exactly. So now it's time for the grand finale.
Right. Let's hear it.
The expert level insights from the Think High X article.
Okay. I'm ready to level up my study game.
Me too. Okay, so what's the first expert level tip?
Let's start with that idea of changing your study environment.
Okay.
It might seem like a small thing.
But it can have a surprisingly big impact on your focus and motivation.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that if I'm always studying in the same place,
Yeah.
it can get kind of stale.
It's like your brain goes on autopilot. You
Yeah.
sit down at your desk and suddenly you're like, I need to organize my sock drawer.
Yeah, or like I need to check social media.
Right. Anything but study.
Yeah.
So a change of scenery can be really refreshing.
Yeah, it's like hitting the refresh button on your brain.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything drastic.
Right.
You know, just moving to a different room
Yeah.
or studying at a coffee shop.
Or going outside.
Yeah, finding a quiet spot in nature.
I love that.
It can make a world of difference.
It can, and it's so easy to do.
It's a simple change,
Yeah, but so effective.
but it can have a big impact.
Okay, what about the next tip?
All right, this one might sound a little unorthodox,
Okay.
but it's actually backed by a lot of scientific research.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Visualize success.
Oh.
Have you ever tried that?
I've heard of it, but I've never really,
Yeah.
done it intentionally.
So the idea is to take a few moments before you start studying
Right?
to vividly imagine yourself achieving your goal.
Oh, okay, so it's not just thinking, I'm going to pass this test.
Right? It's more than that.
Yeah,
It's about really immersing yourself in that experience of success.
okay.
Feel the emotions, feel that sense of accomplishment, the pride, the relief.
So like really feeling it.
Yes. Engage all your senses.
Okay.
Imagine the sights, the sounds, even the smells of that moment of triumph.
I love that.
It's like creating a mini movie in your mind,
Yeah.
starring you as the successful scholar.
And the best part is you can apply this to any goal.
Exactly. Any goal, big or small.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try this.
I think you'll be surprised at how effective it can be.
Okay, so what's the final expert level tip?
All right, this one is about becoming the teacher.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, teach what you've learned to someone else.
I've heard that before, but I've never really thought about it as like a study strategy.
Well, it's a really powerful one
Yeah.
because when you have to explain something to someone else,
Yeah.
you're forced to really understand it.
Yeah, you can't just like passively absorb the information.
Right, you have to actively engage with it
Yeah.
and make it make sense to another person.
It's like taking your knowledge for a test drive.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
in that process,
Yeah.
you often discover new insights and connections.
That you might have missed.
Yeah, when you were just studying on your own.
Plus, it feels good to help someone else learn.
Right, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
You solidify your own understanding and you empower someone else.
I love that.
And it doesn't have to be formal.
Yeah.
You know, you can just explain a concept to a friend or family member,
Yeah.
anyone who's willing to listen.
Okay, so I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, we've explored so much.
We have from the science of motivation to practical tips and personal stories
And expert level insights.
and a glimpse into the future of learning.
I know, it's been amazing.
It has. And I think the biggest takeaway is that
Yeah.
study motivation isn't something you're born with. It's something you can develop.
Cultivate.
Yes, through conscious effort and the right strategies.
And I love that the article really emphasizes that.
It does. It gives you a sense of hope.
Yeah,
Like you can actually change your relationship with studying.
totally. Okay, well, this has been so much fun.
It has. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for joining us. And until next time, happy learning.